December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I ask that the Congress declare a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
I can say with utmost confidence that no Americans today or 1,000 years hence need feel anything but pride in our patience and in our efforts through all the years toward achieving a peace in the Pacific which would be fair and honorable to every nation, large or small. And no honest person today or 1,000 years hence will be able to suppress a sense of indignation and horror. Treachery committed by the military dictators of Japan under the very shadow of the flag of peace borne by their special envoys in our midst.
At the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific.
When the dictators are ready to make war upon us, they will not wait for an act of war on our part. They, not we, will choose the time and the place and the method of their attack. We now know their choice of the time, a peaceful Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941. We know their choice of the place, an outpost, an American outpost in the Pacific.
We must begin the great task that is before us by abandoning once and for all the illusion that we can ever again isolate ourselves from the rest of humanity. In these past few years, and most violently in the past days, we have learned a terrible lesson.
We must not underrate the enemy. He is powerful and cunning, and cruel and ruthless. He will stop at nothing that gives him a chance to kill and to destroy. He has trained his people to believe that their highest perfection is achieved by waging war. For many years he has prepared for this very conflict, planning and plotting and training, arming and fighting.
It's 6 o'clock in Paradise on a Sunday celebration.
Welcome to Mackay, Honolulu, Honolulu. That's my hometown. Honolulu, Honolulu. That's my hometown. Pineapple fields, sugar cane.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire. The attack on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us.
The Japanese have treacherously violated the long-standing peace between us. Many American soldiers and sailors have been killed by enemy action. American ships have been sunk. American airplanes have been destroyed. The Congress and the people of the United States have accepted that challenge. Together with other free peoples, we are now fighting to maintain our right to live.
I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make it very certain that this form of treachery shall never again endanger us.
The act of Japan at Pearl Harbor was intended to stun us, to terrify us. The plan has failed in its purpose. The militarists of Berlin and Tokyo started this war, but the massed, angered forces of common humanity will finish it. Difficult choices may have to be made in the months to come. We do not shrink from such decisions. We and those united with us will make those decisions with courage and determination. Our own objectives are clear. The objective of smashing the militarism imposed by warlords upon their enslaved peoples. The objective of liberating the subjugated nations. The objective of establishing and securing freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom from want, and freedom from fear everywhere in the world. We shall not stop short of these objectives when our enemies challenge our country to stand up and fight. They challenge each and every one of us. And each and every one of us has accepted the challenge for himself and for his nation.
We are now in the midst of a war, not for conquest, not for vengeance, but for a world in which this nation and all that this nation represents will be safe for our children. It will not only be a long war, it will be a hard war. That is the basis on which we now lay all our plans. That is the yardstick by which we measure what we shall need in demand. Money, materials, doubled and quadrupled production.
We know that we may have to pay a heavy price for freedom. We will pay this price with a will, whatever the price. It is 1,000 times worth it. No matter what our enemies in their desperation may attempt to do to us, we will say, as the people of London have said, we can take it. And what's more, we can give it back, and we will give it back with compound interest. Ultimate goal, the conquest of the United States. They know that victory for us means victory for freedom. They know that victory for us means victory for the institution of democracy, the ideal of the family, the simple principles of common decency and humanity. They know that victory for us means victory for religion, and they could not tolerate that.
Every single man, woman, and child is a partner in the most tremendous undertaking of our American history. We must share together the bad news and the good news, the defeat and the victory, the changing fortunes of war.
We are fighting today for security, for progress, and for peace, not only for ourselves, but for all men. Not only for one generation, but for all generations. We are fighting to cleanse the world of ancient evil, ancient ill. Our enemies are guided by brutal cynicism, by unholy contempt for the human race. We are fighting, as our fathers have fought, to uphold the doctrine that all men are equal in the sight of God. Those on the other side are striving to destroy this deep belief and to create a world in their own image, a world of tyranny and cruelty.
Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
眠れる巨これでは眠れる巨人を起こし奮い立たせる結果を招いたも同然である。